Good morning, viewers. Hearty welcome to the next edition of the VDMA CEO's Thought Leadership Series. And pleasure for me today to welcome Mr. Pradeep David. Mr. Pradeep David is the General Manager at Universal Robots, South Asia, based in Bangalore. He's a highly qualified expert in robotics and industrial automation with Masters in Robotics, Clemson University, and MBA, Marquette University, USA. With over 30 years of experience, Pradeep has worked with Rockwell Automation in US, Singapore, and India, and now heads South Asia for Universal Robots, the leading manufacturer of advanced, user-friendly, and lightweight collaborative robotic arms. So a hearty welcome to you, Pradeep, at this edition of the VDMA Thought Leadership Series.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, and good morning to you.
Pradeep, the last 7 to 8 months have been totally unprecedented. Yes. COVID came as a shock. Nobody had anticipated it, that the impact would be so huge. Almost 50 million people have been infected with COVID, and it has spread to about 217 countries. Yes. Pradeep, how would you describe the new normal which COVID has set? I would say on two aspects: on your personal life as well as your professional life also, Pradeep.
Yes, that's a good question. I think we're all struggling with this, Rajesh. And from a personal standpoint, actually, it's been extremely rewarding in some strange way, you know. I think I've never not been on a plane every 2 weeks, you know, for maybe the last 20, 30 years that I can remember. And I haven't stepped on one for the last 8 months. So that has a lot of positive side effects, like you're eating at home and staying healthy and walking and playing badminton. And, you know, maybe I've got time with my 96-year-old mother. So I have to say very positive from a personal standpoint. Of course, it's tragic to see what's happening around to some very close friends, etc. But from a professional standpoint, it's been a lot more challenging. You know, we have a very powerful device, as you know, behind us, this collaborative robot, which is a huge productivity boost for many, many manufacturers. But when they can't spend, you know, when they can't keep their doors open, it's been a huge challenge. So professionally, it's been challenged because our distributors who sell this, they're small businesses, you know, they're SMEs, and they've been struggling to keep the cash flow going. Projects generally have been delayed. So, you know, that's the glum side. I am an optimist at heart. So, you know, what was it that Churchill said? You know, there's no use being anything else. So, I mean, look at all the numbers, right? The GST rebound to 1 lakh crores, you know, 1 trillion rupees, which is amazing since February. And the other things like the PMI index, I think you've seen 58.6, which is like around the highest in a decade, you know. So something is happening there, which maybe the trickle down effect hasn't reached us yet, but I think it's happening. I mean, even the RBI governor, you know, Mr. Das says that India is right on the doorstep of an economic recovery. And from our perspective, because auto components and stuff. So I think it's generally bullish. While we're on a low right now, I do see some light at the end of the tunnel. We're seeing some FMCG companies starting to put some automation solutions in. So I think that may be the answer to your professional and personal question.
Right. And Pradeep, how is the team at Universal Robots coping up with this challenge of COVID? How are your colleagues? Are they working from home, or how are you? And how's the interaction between the team happening, Pradeep?
Amazingly, we actually had more interaction in COVID than we've ever had. You know, our team is spread out in Noida, in Pune, and in Bangalore. And because of COVID, every single morning, we get together for 45 minutes to an hour. And we know exactly what each of our colleagues are doing. We know their mental state, you know, socially, etc. So I have to say it's actually become more close-knit. You know, of course, it's Zoom and, you know, these kind of forums. But teams doing well. They can't also travel. It gets frustrating. You're not able to support customers. But factories are opening. I have to say things are looking a lot better. We've not put them on planes yet. That's the only thing we've not done. Yes.
Right. And Pradeep, would you briefly tell us about the journey of Universal Robots in India? How
Sure.
did Universal Robots start? And maybe a few words also on the company, because it's, I think, a young company, so, and a very progressive company. So I think our viewers would surely like to know a little bit more about the company also, Pradeep.
Sure, sure. Yeah, Universal Robots is really a fascinating company. It's Danish-based, so right on the border of Germany. And the story is basically the owner, the founder, was a guy by the name of Esben Ostergaard, who had done his PhD in robotics some 15 years ago. And he came back to Denmark. In fact, he did 2 PhDs, one in Japan and one in the US. Was not happy. He says, why am I scared of this thing, this robot? Why can it kill me? Why can't it be my friend and sit on the bench next to me and help me in doing my work? So a couple of PhD projects, helped him along that way. And he went about designing this robot, which is safe to work alongside human beings, which we call a cobot now, collaborative robot. So a long story short, the story goes that he got an order for 3 robots and basically didn't have money as a student to put that together. The Danish government stepped in, and in about 10 years, he sold the company for $300+ million to Teradyne. So it's a classic case of just innovation, and it took the world by storm because this is a new technology. Robots have been around for 60 years, but collaborative robots, the standard for that, the ISO standard, only happened in 2016. So it's fairly new. It's only a 5-year-old phenomena, if you would. So that's the company. It's less than 1,000 people. And one of the key philosophies is to go to market through distribution. So we have 15 partners in India, for example, 700 around the world. And one very important concept, we also believe as a small company, we can't be everything to everyone. Yeah. So we've taken this concept, call it UR+, wherein, let's say you're looking for a best of breed camera. We're not camera people. But what we've done is developed the opened our interface to the camera guys. And now if you go to our website, you can get a 2D camera, a 3D camera, this camera, that camera, different price ranges from hundreds of vendors that are already interfaced to the robot. Okay, so we call it a platform for robots. Universal Robots is a platform. All these attachments, you bring it in and they just work. So that's a little bit about the company. The journey in India, it's been, that's been my personal journey. I actually started the office here in 2016. So in February 2016, we kicked it off with the founder and signed up all the distributors. And it's been a very, very heartwarming challenge for me. Having spent 22 odd years overseas, in the US and Singapore, it was nice to come back and bring a tool that's really useful to SMEs. That's the passion that I have is, it's not just for, Bajaj is our largest customer. They have 100 cobots. But I think I'm even more happy to tell you that a 10 CNC machine company in Pune uses our cobot. And because of that, they're competitive globally, So I guess that's our journey. We have a small team, but we have a very powerful, strong distribution channel around the country. And it's quite exciting to penetrate and see the SMEs successful. You're on mute only.
Yeah. Wishing you and the team all the very best also in your journey forward, Pradeep. And
thank you so much.
I think it's an amazing product with having a lot of potential. In fact, let's come to the SME. You mentioned about the SME sector, Pradeep. Now, yes. SME forms the backbone of the Indian economy. We have something like 63.8 million MSMEs operating in India. But technology adoption has always been also utilization of collaborative robots. How can this adoption help the MSME sectors to grow in India?
Yes, I think that's a very, very good question. And I think there are 5 key points here, and this is based on my experience and these customers. So let's take SME, without taking any names, that's supplying products to a large, in fact, a German multinational here in Bangalore. And you know that the German manufacturing companies are extremely high on Industry 4.0. And in fact, somebody made a statement, without Industry 4.0, you survive in manufacturing, So we are seeing now the challenge that SMEs are facing, where these MNCs are coming and saying, show me the Industry 4.0 adoption at your plants. In fact, our next order or the extension of our contract is going to be based on how you can automate. So it's not like there's an option anymore. If you're an SME, should I modernize? Should I automate? It is like, when are you doing it? Because your future and your to keep your doors open, Industry 4.0 is a very basic thing, right? And I'm happy to tell you that, from with an investment as little as 16 lakhs to say 25 lakhs, SMEs in India, this is less than the cost of the Innova that brings you to work, as an SME owner. Yeah, you can actually put a device that works 24/7, is accurate, doesn't take coffee breaks, improves your quality dramatically, and helps you meet your production demands reliably, and takes you on that baby step towards Industry 4.0. Because this device that you see behind me is a completely Industry 4.0 compliant device. It can talk to Profinet, it can talk to TCP/IP, Ethernet, Modbus, what have you. In other words, by making this investment of, let's say, 20 lakhs, an SME can start that journey, right? So that's number one. How can they benefit? Number two, we've done a lot of success stories over the last 5 years with SMEs, and stuff. It's on our website. Universally, they tell me that labor is a huge problem. So for those who think that India is abundant with labor, it's cheap labor, I think those days are really numbered or gone. Just take a look at the pandemic. You saw all the migrant workers going back, right? We've seen many problems with labor. I know it, even in Coimbatore, we had foreign labor, foreign meaning our different states, being sent back for various reasons. So what happens if you're an SME owner and you've got this big order you have to comply with? You have to have some tools to help you do the production 24/7, right? So labor is the other issue. The third one is quality and ergonomics. I for long have been saying I wish that Make in India, the statement was actually make with quality in India. I've talked to you about this, wherein German cars are well known, and maybe Italian suits are well known around the world. It would be great to have Indian products. And in fact, I'm happy to say that some of our customers who've used cobots are now exporting. There's an Aurolab, I'll use the name because we have a story. They make lenses that go in your eye. And their quality went up so dramatically when they automated that they're now exporting to 150 countries. So they had about a handful of workers. Today they have 700. So rather than robots taking jobs, here's robots keeping your doors open and making you successful as a business, right? So the size of your cake increases, if you would. It's not the same small cake and we're divvying it up. We're increasing the size of the cake, right? Which is what China did over the last 20 years, right? Manufacturing just exploded. So that's the second quality. Ergonomics is a big one. Maybe it's more sought after by the larger companies. We have people were carrying pallets, or boxes, 800 kgs in a day, is what it would work out. It may be the box is only 5 kgs, but the number of boxes you carry, and your back is going to go. And the larger companies are more cognizant of this nowadays. Finally, from SME perspective, you're always concerned: can I manage this technology on my own? If my order changes, what happens? Do I have to get that company from the big city in with a robotics expert and pay him all kinds of money? It's very important that you as an SME should be confident that you have the technology. If you know how to use WhatsApp, we say you can use a cobot. We can train you how to do that. That's a very powerful message for SMEs that, hey, I don't need a robotics expert to do this. I can train my guy who's handling the machine. Okay? And the final one, which is often overlooked, and that is as a secret. You're successful for the last 15 years, and you've learned that secret the hard way. You don't want everybody in the world to know what that secret is. Now, because you can program this cobot yourself, you can retain your IP within the 4 walls. I bring a cobot in, I learn how to use it, and then I use it to do what my secret sauce recipe is, right? So I can maintain that intellectual property within the 4 walls. So these are the 5 reasons that I believe SMEs can really benefit from this technology.
Right. Very interesting, Pradeep. Despite of, let's say, certainly you mentioned about the advantages of the cobots, Pradeep. But when you visit the customers, what are the main arguments you face against or their hesitation in utilizing the cobots or adopting the collaborative robot technology, Pradeep?
Right. Yeah, we do come across. So maybe what I should do is first talk about the advantages, then we'll talk about the challenges, right? So
Sure.
I talk about the 5 Ds of manufacturing, jobs that are dull, dirty, dangerous, difficult, and sometimes where distancing is required. That's the new phenomena. Cobots automatically give you that 6 feet distancing, right? By the way, that's a huge thing nowadays in production. People have gone back and opened their doors thanks to putting a cobot in and having that social distancing in manufacturing. So cobots are extremely lightweight. As you can see, I put this in my car and I brought it home, plugged it into single-phase power. I don't need three-phase power, right? So this may seem, cool for a marketing demo like we're doing just now, but is it really practical? But think about it. If you own this as an SME, and that operator in machine number 17 got COVID or didn't come, and I've got the very critical order to execute, I can just take this device and put it on machine 17. You could never dream of doing that with an industrial robot. You need a fork truck, you need 3 weeks of downtime, I need programming changes. I can do it within a shift. So therefore, I can view this as a tool to assist me when I have a problem, right? And I can use it for machine tending one day, I can use it for dispensing another day, right? So these are some of the major advantages. And they see this, so their major hindrance would be number one is the cost, right? And like I told you, one SME in Jamshedpur, when we told him it's going to be, this project is going to cost you 30 lakhs, which is the robot and the conveyor system and a few other things. He was tending 2 machines and he said this is too high, and asked him, he sent a Innova to pick us up from the airport. We asked him how much that cost, and that was more than the cost, So it's very interesting. Once they put it in perspective and they see, oh my God, this is working 24/7. And I don't even need to have an operator in the night shift. It's producing parts for me. In a matter of 18 months, this is going to be printing money for me. So what amazing thing happened was the next presentation we did, their bank officials were in the presentation to understand what is this technology that we are funding. That's so great, So cost is a big one. The ROI, if it's done fairly, that's what I mean, some people will say, oh, I had one guy working here. The cobot comes in, I take one guy off, I can never pay for it. It'll take you 15 years to pay for it. But that's not a fair analysis, right? Because what you need to look at is the productivity gains, the quality gains. And also when you have operators, it's also the infrastructure you have to support that. You need security, you need cleaning, you need, benefits, all these other things. So when you look at it holistically, we have time and again proven that within 18 months you can pay for this thing. So that is one challenge we always have to try and to access them. The other one, I think, is the limited weight range of a cobot. See, because these are safe to work alongside human beings, these don't handle 200 kilograms and stuff, right? The biggest cobot we have is 16 kgs payload. So that may limit the amount of work this can do. By the way, that's changed now as our partners now have come up with a 45 kg Kobo lift. So if I want to lift a sack, which is 45 kgs, I can have a cobot steering this device called a Kobo lift, which has got a vacuum boom on it, yeah, and we can extend it. So a lot of innovation is happening there, but that is one limitation, is the payload. And finally, sometimes you may need IP67 or very, very industrial grade, underwater operating thing. This is not, it's just IP54. 5% of applications we are targeting. So these are some of the limitations and apprehensions that there may be.
Right. But certainly, I think in COVID period, Pradeep, as you rightly mentioned, with distancing, I think the collaborative robot really fits in well, because the issue of migrant labor, you don't know when the labor is going to come. Social distancing aspects scare also of COVID, and I think till now, I think it's never proved that that a robot has got COVID.
Yes, that's true. There was a very interesting story in this, where in a similar seminar, we had the plant manager of Dell with us from Chennai. So he was telling us how, they have servers, and a guy used to pick up a server, another person used to take the 2 styrofoam caps and put it on the end, and then the whole device is loaded into the box. He said, with social distancing, I couldn't have run it. With a cobot, the cobot lifts up the server, and the operator puts the 2 end caps, and the cobot lowers it into the box. So true human-robot collaboration, a job that could not have been done under current conditions, is now being able to be done.
Right, right. Pradeep, if we look at the aspect of innovation, now for growth, the company has to be at the forefront of innovation.
Yeah.
And what I saw also on your website that Universal Robots prides itself in this. Let's look at the Indian scenario, Pradeep. In India, actually, we are hardly spending 0.8% of our GDP on R&D activities, whereas the global average is something around 2 to 2.5%. And if we look at Europe, it's as high as about 4% also in certain European countries like Germany.
Right.
Now, do you feel, Pradeep, as a nation, we are talking about Make in India, we want manufacturing to contribute 25% to our GDP by 2025. But since we are spending only limited amount on innovation, do you think this will limit our growth journey in industrial growth in India if we have to really grow fast and be the factory of the world? Is this possible, Pradeep?
That's an excellent question. I'm very passionate about this one because ours is a highly innovative product. We've got all kinds of awards for innovation. In fact, I think it was MIT that put us as one of the 50 smartest companies in the globe, you know. So I'm glad you brought this up. I'm very happy to tell you that a lot of innovation centers in India use cobots, you know, because they're looking at the next generation of manufacturing. They see this as a tool. I think you raise a very profound question. Can we as India be competitive if we don't invest in innovation? And I think there's a big concern there. Since I'm in the robotics side, let me focus my attention on robotics. The International Federation of Robotics, which is based in Frankfurt, by the way, they put out a statistic, and the average number of robots per 10,000 employees, okay, in a manufacturing environment is 99. So let's just say 100, okay? 100 robots per 10,000 employees is what the average of the world is. Now, some leaders like Korea and Singapore have got about 800, right? 800 per 10,000. Germany and Japan, the more advanced nations, around 350, right? Maybe they're headed towards 400 now. China's got 140, right? Robots. It's not great. It's a little higher than the average. But guess where we are? You know, as India, we're at 4 robots per 10,000 employees. This is a massive discrepancy. If we are really wanting to be the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, how can we do that without the productivity tools and the benefits that robots offer? So if we take a stock of this, we are 25 times behind the world average. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Let's take a look at China. China used to be at 20 robots per 10,000 employees just 10 years ago. Okay, 10 years ago, they were 20, today they're at 140. Why did that happen? You know, President Xi Jinping came in and he made some kind of a statement about China 2025, and there's something called a robot revolution, you know, where they had all kinds of subsidies for robots to come in. People were deploying robots, were getting incentives, you know, and you see what's happened to their manufacturing, you know. Today, they're the largest robot consumer in the world, not surprisingly, right? Does it look like they're struggling with jobs and all that? You know, they're creating jobs, they're leading in manufacturing. So I think we need to change our mindset. Yes, we're at 4. Take a leaf out of their book. Today they are above the world average. So they made a concerted effort. I think we need to do the same. You know, if we give some subsidies rather than tax robots that are coming in. You know, let's give some incentives to people. We have so many innovative people in India. So much software development. You give them a cobot that's so smart. It can do so many interesting things. And you give it in the hands of intelligent Indian entrepreneurs, like we have done with the IIT Kanpur, etc. You know, and they've come up with amazing AI solutions with robots. You know, but if we got some assistance to do that, some subsidies, some kind of things like Singapore does with the Economic Development Board, because we know this is technology that's going to enhance manufacturing. So if there's some government help there, I think it'll make a world of difference.
Right. Thank you. I think that's a very, very good insight you have given, and what could be the way forward for India. Let's come briefly to the skill set level in India, Pradeep.
Yes.
How do you find, since you are visiting many companies, you're interacting with the MSMEs, so how would you rate the level of skill set in India, Pradeep? And what steps can be undertaken to improve these skill set levels, Pradeep?
Right. And again, I'll talk with a little narrow perspective on the cobots that we represent. I think the skill level is fine. In time and again, we have seen the operator working, we have given them a teach pendant in the hand. At the end of the day, we walk out and they're handling the cobot. They never in their wildest dreams imagined that they could handle a cobot. So I personally believe that the general intelligence level, even at the workers, uneducated people, is pretty high. Just look at the way they handle their WhatsApps and all that. They can do wonders with it. So we can very easily, if you make it a graphical screen. So I don't think we have a skill deficit that's unmanageable. We just need to give them the opportunity, right? And I'm seeing time and again where we have not brought in robotics trained guy, from the US to handle an SME, or, it's just that the normal engineers that have been grown up in India or the normal operators are handling it. So I am not too worried about the skill level in India. I think we just need to give them the opportunity.
Right. I remember in one of the articles, what you had mentioned, Pradeep, and I found this a very important point, which I would like to highlight, is that the application of cobots also helps in inclusive participation of women in the workforce, because as we know, the women participation in Indian labor force is very nominal, I think hardly 20%. And I think if I remember correctly, you mentioned that you have examples of ladies operating the cobots and very successfully operating the cobots. Would you like to highlight briefly that point, Pradeep?
Sure. Thanks for bringing it up. I just slipped my mind, but yes, in fact, Bajaj, who's our largest customer, it was amazing that they had a corporate initiative that, hey, Rahul Bajaj had made a statement or something internally that he would like to see 50% of the assembly line workers to be women. And that was proving to be a challenge because they were doing this nut, when you have the engine blocks, which is quite painful, carpal tunnel syndrome. And so they put a cobot in there, which is very safe, and it does the nut tightening. And these girls are there who are doing the inspection and the higher level value added stuff. And they actually have 50% women there, I'm even more proud of Autolab, where 90%, Autolab, by the way, provides lenses for the Arvind Eye Hospital and other companies like that. So 90% are girls, not say girls because they're about 18 or so when they come out and start working. And they routinely handle cobots. They are by no means robot programmers. I think this is for over 6 years now. They've been doing it very successfully, And from the management standpoint, they feel that, hey, these girls, they work till 22, they go away to get married. But when the new person comes in, it doesn't take a long time for them to retrain the new one, to handle the robot. And so I believe that cobots are helping with women empowerment. And you're right. I think the number now is 26% of women. We have, there's an SME in Ahmedabad that said that, hey, he just can't run his night shift. After 10, nobody comes to work out there because of safety reasons. It's a little outside. With the cobot, he's able to run his night shift. The people fill in the in tray, the input buffer. In the morning, they come in, everything's ready. So.
Pradeep, let me come to the last question for today. Pradeep, the situation now, the last 7 to 8 months, perhaps we have understood now in depth what VUCA means. We were using the term very liberally earlier, but I think it's really now that we have seen the impact of VUCA world. And this calls also challenges upon the leaders. How do you navigate your boat in the stormy water? And we would surely like to hear from you, Pradeep, 2 or 3 tips, because this would be also very beneficial for our audience and the German CEOs. 3 tips on how leaders can help their companies overcome this period of uncertainty and crisis, Pradeep.
That's actually, it's a great way to end, Rajesh. And I think from my experience, to point out these 3 things that I think are very valid points that I'm seeing. Number 1, be careful, don't hyper automate. Okay. So it's easy to say, yes, I would like to automate, and you can go overboard on automation, right? So there is a fine balance between automation and human involvement. So You may have heard about the story in 2018 where the Tesla plant, they were supposed to make 5,000 S series, S class or whatever, and they were only able to make 2,000, despite having completely robotized the plant and the next generation lights out factory, all that stuff, right? Why did that happen? Because they found that the variations on the shop floor, a robot's not good at handling that. You need human intelligence to look at the variations. In India, God knows we have even more variations, right? And we've seen this with even palletizing. So be careful about hyper automation, right? Learn from so that's what I believe humans and robots need to work together. You need robots where robots are good. You need humans where they are good. And frankly, they need to work together. Okay. So that's one little thing. When in your journey towards automation, be careful you don't go overboard and hyper automate, because people have had a bad experience. Just read about Tesla. Number two, I would say be careful about analysis paralysis. So if you say 5 years, some of my experiences, I routinely have people, that I follow up every year that, 3 years ago, they've said, yes, we are very interested. We love this technology. We know it works. We've shown it. And they've not taken the first step, So that's a dangerous ploy, because you can get the first step. What was that saying? Mark Twain that said, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So I would definitely say, please be careful of analysis paralysis. Yes, you need to do your ROI calculations. Yes, you need to, dip your toe in and make sure that things are going to work in your favor. But to get paralyzed for years and let this thing go by, I think there's a small window of opportunity. Grab it, because the next technology is on its way. Robots with AI are on their way right now, but it's important to step in and not get left behind, right? So careful about analysis. I've seen that, unfortunately, in quite a few cases, And finally, one advice I would give, if you would, is please take the team along, Do not plan an automation project, a cobot project up in the boardroom and, have an integrator come and just drop it in and expect everybody to follow it and make it a success. It's not going to happen. We have seen cases of sabotage where we put a camera at night shift. Some people just don't like what was happening and they sabotage it. And frankly, you will not be successful if you don't take your people along, right? So the most successful projects I've seen are where the operator, who knows the most about the machine and the process, works hand in hand with the development team, and they work through all the pitfalls, and this operator doesn't lose his job. He actually gets to a higher level. He's now a supervisor of the robot, So take your people along, take them on the journey. Bringing in cobots and robots and all these things is a cultural mindset. Don't make it a shock, just take the people along. So These would be the three things I would suggest.
Right. Thank you, Pradeep. I think very nice insights you've given. If I were just to sum it up, you said about not to hyper automate, and then you spoke about the analysis paralysis. And I think the last point, which is very relevant in Indian circumstances also, is take the team along so that everybody is part of the whole project. And I guess that way you get also the 100% involvement and dedication from the team. Pradeep, it's been a pleasure interacting with you, and on behalf of the German Engineering Federation, VDMA, wishing you and the team further success in your journey. And I'm sure with this innovative product, Universal Robots has certainly a big market in India, and especially targeting and helping and supporting the MSME sector, which are so important for the industrial growth of India. So wishing you all the very best, Pradeep. Stay safe, stay well, and best wishes for the festive season, and happy Diwali also to you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and best wishes. Happy Diwali to you and the audience too. Thanks so much.
Right. Thank you, Pradeep. Bye. Take care.